Catching fish through 5 feet of solid ice sounds impossible. Unless you're Inuit, no boats, no warm weather, just pure skill in the middle of winter. While most people are avoiding the cold, they're pulling dinner out of it. It's not easy, but that's what makes it worth knowing. Before you even think about the fish, you have to deal with the ice, and plenty of it. Catching a fish is hard enough when you can actually see the water. Now imagine trying to do it through 5 feet of solid ice in temperatures cold enough to freeze your eyelashes together. Welcome to ice fishing, Inuit style, where your fishing rod might get frostbite before you do. In the far north, the Inuit have mastered cutting through impossibly thick ice without fancy equipment. No electric drills here, just raw determination and tools crafted from the harsh landscape. Think of it as extreme DIY, where the penalty for failure isn't a bad Yelp review, but an empty stomach. The first challenge is simply making a hole. 5 feet of ice isn't just a barrier, it's like digging through a frozen sidewalk with a spoon. I guess you could call it the original breaking the ice conversation starter, except the ice doesn't laugh at your jokes, and the fish below are terrible listeners. The traditional tool for this task is the kakivak, a sturdy chisel often made from caribou antler or metal in more recent times. Selecting the right fishing spot is crucial. Generations of knowledge guide fishers to locations where fish gather, near underwater rocks, in deeper pools, or at channel narrows. Wrong spot? 3 hours of chiseling for nothing. It's like following a treasure map drawn by someone who was clearly having a laugh at your expense. Starting the hole requires muscle and precision. The fisher strikes the ice repeatedly, chipping away small pieces. Depending on thickness, creating a usable hole might take 30 minutes to several hours. The sound carries for miles. It's the Arctic's version of a doorbell announcing, "Hey, I'm hungry." And trust me, no pizza delivery guy is showing up. As the hole deepens, the work becomes harder. Ice chips fly everywhere. Hands grow numb despite thick mittens. Halfway through, when arms burn with exhaustion, many would quit. But quitting means no dinner. This is the original no pain, no gain workout routine, where the only protein shake waiting is whatever you pull from the water. After thousands of strikes, water finally appears. The hole must be widened carefully to allow passage of fishing tools and, hopefully, a good-sized catch. Nothing says, "I didn't think this through," quite like playing tug-of-war with a half-frozen fish wedged in your too-narrow ice hole. The completed hole, typically about 12 inches across, becomes a portal between two worlds. While humans shiver above, life continues in the water beneath. It's like the fish are partying in their underwater heated pool while we're chiseling our way in like determined party crashers. Once open, the hole requires maintenance. The extreme cold would refreeze it in minutes, so fishers must regularly clear forming ice with specialized scoops. It's the original whack-a-mole game, except the mole is ice and there's no cheerful arcade music, just wind howling. You should have stayed home. The traditional ice pick often features a handle wrapped in sealskin for better grip and an ivory or bone tip hardened by years of use. These aren't museum pieces, they're working tools that feed families. The strength needed is astonishing. Research shows that cutting through thick ice manually burns up to 500 calories per hour, more than running a 5-minute mile. In other words, ice fishing is the original CrossFit, except instead of posting your workout on Instagram, your reward is actual food. With the portal to the underwater world finally open, the real challenge begins. Arctic char, lake trout, and cod are the main targets for Inuit ice fishers. The Arctic char deserves special mention. This fish can survive in water as cold as 28.4 degrees Fahrenheit, which is actually colder than most home freezers. These fish are essentially swimming around in fish stick temperature, yet somehow haven't gotten the memo that they're supposed to be frozen. During winter, fish behavior changes dramatically. They slow down their movements to conserve energy. Their metabolism drops to about 1/3 of summer rates, making them less likely to chase suspicious bait. It's like they've entered energy-saving mode, the fish equivalent of not getting out of bed on a cold winter morning. Most fish retreat to deeper waters during winter, typically 15 to 30 feet down, where temperature remains more stable. The deepest parts of the lake become fish highways, travel corridors between feeding and resting areas. If you've cut your hole in the wrong spot, you might as well be fishing in an empty swimming pool. Even in near-freezing water, these fish still feed. Arctic cod can digest a meal at 29 degrees Fahrenheit, though it takes them about 6 days to process what a warmer water fish could digest in just one day. Their digestive system operates on the better late than never principle. Inuit fishers know not just where to find fish, but when they're likely to be hungry. Traditional knowledge has identified feeding patterns tied to lunar cycles. During the full moon, Arctic char are up to 40% more active than during the new moon. The color of your bait matters more in winter. Under ice, red appears dark and nearly invisible, while white and glow-in-the-dark lures show up clearly. Inuit traditional fishing lures often feature white bone or ivory tips for this reason. Light-colored bait visibility extends up to 3 times farther in the dim under-ice environment. Water beneath ice forms temperature layers, with warmer water, 33 to 35 degrees Fahrenheit, often sitting under the ice. Some traditional fishers test depths by lowering a stick with animal fat smeared at intervals. The melting pattern reveals these temperature layers. Oxygen levels also dictate fish location. In late winter, when ice has been thick for months, oxygen becomes depleted in parts of a lake. Fish move toward inlets and underwater springs where fresh, oxygenated water enters. Coastal Inuit communities target these breathing spots, sometimes traveling 10 miles to reach prime locations. Most fascinating, Arctic fish have developed special blood proteins that act like antifreeze. These proteins bind to ice crystals beginning to form in the blood, preventing them from growing larger and damaging cells. Some species can survive in water below the normal freezing point of fish blood. They're basically swimming around with built-in ice scrapers in their veins. Having conquered that formidable ice barrier, knowing where these cold water survivors gather is just half the battle. The real challenge begins when you settle in for what might be the longest part of the journey. Ice fishing isn't just fishing. It's sitting. For hours. In the cold. This isn't a sport for people who need constant action. It's a masterclass in patience that would make most smartphone-addicted teenagers break down in tears. Once the hole is cut and the bait is dropped, the waiting begins. The Inuit have developed strategies to make this waiting bearable, even in conditions that would send most of us running for the nearest heated building. Some build snow windbreaks to shield themselves from biting winds. These simple structures can reduce the wind chill effect by up to 20 degrees. Others bring small tents called quollet, traditionally made from caribou hide, which create a sheltered microclimate around the fishing hole. Many ice fishers simply hunker down and wait, their bodies covered in multiple layers of fur and hide. These aren't your department store winter coats. Traditional Inuit clothing can keep a person warm in temperatures that would make your freezer seem like a tropical vacation spot. Traditional caribou hide parkas contain hollow fur that traps air and provides insulation rated to -50 degrees, nearly twice as effective as synthetic materials of the same weight. The bait sits on a line dangling into a dark hole, while the person sits above it, bundled like a burrito. Watching from a distance, you'd see what appears to be a motionless lump on a vast white landscape. Up close, you'd find alert eyes scanning for the slightest twitch of the fishing line. The wait isn't just endured, it's prepared for. No Inuit ice fisher would dream of setting out without provisions. Hot tea in stone containers wrapped in furs stays warm for hours. Dried meat, often caribou or seal, offers protein and fat, essential fuel for staying warm. These aren't fancy snacks with colorful packaging and marketing slogans. They're survival food that's been field-tested by centuries of people who didn't have the option of giving up and ordering takeout. Food isn't the only sustenance brought along. Stories travel well, too. While waiting for a bite, elders would share tales, legends of the area, practical knowledge about hunting patterns, weather prediction techniques. One study found that Inuit knowledge of sea ice contains more than 100 specialized terms describing different ice conditions, most of which aren't captured in scientific language. Much of the waiting happens in silence. After a while, the silence changes from uncomfortable to comfortable. A rhythm of breathing, the occasional creak of ice, the whisper of wind across snow. Studies have shown that this type of nature-based mindfulness can lower stress hormone levels by up to 28%. The cold creates unique challenges. At temperatures of -20 degrees or lower, metal fishing gear can freeze to ungloved skin in less than 3 seconds. Many Inuit fishers have learned this lesson the hard way, discovering that your fingerprints can indeed stay behind when the rest of you leaves. To prevent this, traditional fishing tools have handles wrapped in hide or sinew. Time passes differently when you're ice fishing. The sun barely rises in winter months, creating a perpetual twilight that messes with your internal clock. Many fishers mark time not by hours, but by changes in light quality or the movement of stars. Sometimes the waiting pays off with a tug on the line. Other times, a day's fishing yields nothing but numb toes. Either way, there's another method of ice fishing that requires even less gear and even more skill. Fishing with a spear through ice transforms the waiting game into an active hunt. This traditional Inuit method uses not one hole, but two, turning ice fishing into a stealth operation that requires perfect timing and precision. The process begins by cutting two holes about 6 feet apart. These must be positioned where fish regularly travel, like channels between feeding areas. The fisher then lies flat on the ice between these openings, often on a caribou hide for minimal insulation. One hole serves as the viewing window, while the other becomes the strike zone. The fisher peers into the first hole, watching for movement in the dark water below. Many cover themselves with a hide to block out surface light, creating a primitive viewing booth. In clear Arctic waters, visibility can reach an impressive 25 feet down, enough to spot fish moving below. Lying stomach down on ice for hours might sound like a form of ancient torture, but Inuit spearfishers would consider your heated car seats and cup holders to be cheating. The true test comes when a fish appears. The fisher must remain absolutely motionless, as any movement could send ripples or shadows into the water and alert the fish. When a target swims into view, the fisher readies their spear, the kakivak. Unlike single-point spears, the traditional ice fishing kakivak has multiple prongs, usually 3. The center prong is slightly longer and pierces the fish, while the outer prongs work like a trap, preventing escape. The design is basically a fork on steroids, ensuring your dinner doesn't swim away after being poked. The moment of truth arrives when the fish approaches the second hole. The fisher must calculate depth, refraction of light, and the fish's swimming speed, all in a split second. The arm moves in one swift, silent motion, driving the spear through the second hole. The success rate for experienced fishers reaches about 70%. Impressive considering the challenging conditions. If the strike lands, the fish is quickly pulled up. Many kakivak spears have notches or barbs on the prongs to prevent the fish from slipping off. The strike itself makes barely a sound, just the quiet splash of water and perhaps the flick of a tail against ice. What makes this method remarkable is its effectiveness without any modern technology. No fishing line, no hooks, no lures, just understanding fish behavior and having incredible patience and aim. The Inuit developed this technique by observing that fish follow predictable paths under ice and tend to investigate shadows and openings where light penetrates. The spear itself tells stories of generations of refinement. A well-crafted kakivak balances weight and strength perfectly. The central prong might be tipped with carved bone or antler, creating a needle-sharp point that slides through water with minimal resistance. This method requires knowledge that isn't written in books, but passed down through demonstration. You won't find ice spearfishing for dummies at your local bookstore. Children learn by watching elders, gradually developing the extraordinary patience and precision needed for success. Just as humans have relied on various tools for hunting, they've also had some unexpected help from their companions when searching for fish beneath the ice. Before modern gear and electronic fish finders, Inuit ice fishers relied on something much more surprising: their dogs. The connection between humans and dogs in Arctic communities goes far beyond companionship. It's a hunting partnership that stretches back thousands of years. What makes this partnership particularly valuable for ice fishing is a dog's extraordinary sense of smell. Here's something most people don't know. Dogs can smell fish through solid ice. While humans can detect scents measured in parts per thousand, dogs can detect scents in parts per trillion. To put this in perspective, if you could detect a teaspoon of sugar in your coffee, a dog could detect that same teaspoon dissolved in 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools. It's like having a furry, 4-legged fish detector that runs on seal blubber instead of batteries. The process works like this. When traveling across frozen lakes or sea ice, Inuit fishers would watch their lead dogs carefully. A dog that suddenly becomes interested in a particular spot, pawing at the ice or showing unusual focus, might be detecting fish swimming beneath. Traditional knowledge confirms what science now understands. Fish release amino acids and other compounds that can seep through tiny fissures in ice, creating a scent signature that dogs can detect. Studies of Greenlandic sled dogs have shown they can detect odors at concentrations up to 100,000 times lower than humans can perceive. When a school of Arctic char or lake trout gathers in an underwater channel, the collective scent becomes strong enough for a dog to notice, even through 5 feet of solid ice. One research team found that trained dogs could locate fish schools with 87% accuracy, outperforming some modern electronic equipment. A typical scenario unfolds like this. During a journey across a frozen lake, a dog in the team suddenly veers off course, sniffing intently at a seemingly random patch of ice. The experienced fisher notices this behavior and marks the spot for investigation. Later, a fishing hole is cut precisely where the dog showed interest. More often than not, the hole reveals an underwater ridge, channel, or other feature that attracts fish. This method isn't just folklore. Historical accounts from early Arctic explorers describe watching Inuit communities rely on their dogs to find prime fishing locations. Modern fish finders might have fancy screens and digital readouts, but they don't wag their tails when they find a school of Arctic char. This fishing technique also influenced travel patterns. When planning winter journeys, traditional routes often incorporated known fishing spots discovered by dogs in previous seasons. These became communal knowledge, with entire communities returning year after year to locations first identified by a particularly talented dog. Dogs also played a crucial role in transporting fishing gear and catches. A team of 6 dogs could haul hundreds of pounds of equipment and fish across miles of treacherous ice, making distant fishing grounds accessible during the harshest months. As effective as these traditional methods have proven over thousands of years, the modern world has brought new tools and techniques to the Arctic. Modern tools have changed ice fishing across the Arctic, but they haven't replaced the ancient knowledge that makes it possible. Today's Inuit ice fishers might use gas-powered augers to drill through ice, sonar fish finders to locate schools, and insulated shelters to stay warm. But the techniques that have sustained their communities for millennia remain just as relevant. The introduction of lightweight modern augers has transformed the most physically demanding part of ice fishing. What once took hours of exhausting labor with a hand chisel can now be accomplished in minutes. A modern ice auger can cut through 5 feet of solid ice in less than 10 minutes, compared to the 2 or more hours required using traditional methods. These power tools have finally answered the age-old question: how many ice fishers does it take to drill a hole? Just one, but now he has time to check his social media while doing it. Sonar fish finders represent another technological leap. These devices use sound waves to create a picture of what lies beneath the ice, showing fish movement in real time. Some advanced models can even differentiate between species based on the size and density of the return signal. In commercial fishing operations, where efficiency is critical, these tools have increased catch rates by up to 60%. It's like giving fishers X-ray vision, minus the superpowers and spandex costume. Though in those temperatures, multiple layers are definitely preferred to tights. Portable shelters have also revolutionized the comfort level of ice fishing. Modern pop-up tents with insulated walls can raise the interior temperature by 30 to 40 degrees above the outside air temperature, allowing fishing even during the harshest weather. When your ice fishing hut has better Wi-Fi than most coffee shops, you know we're not talking about your grandfather's fishing hole anymore. Sorry I missed your call. I was busy catching dinner through a hole in a frozen lake, but feel free to check my Instagram story for updates. But technology alone can't replace the knowledge developed over thousands of years. The elder who knows that fish gather near underwater springs in late winter, or that Arctic char feed most actively during the waxing moon, still has critical wisdom to share. GPS might tell you where you are, but it can't tell you where the fish had their last family reunion. This is why many Inuit communities have established formal programs to connect elders with younger generations, ensuring traditional knowledge isn't lost as technology advances. This blending of old and new can be seen in many fishing communities. A grandfather might use a traditional bone-tipped spear to catch fish, while his grandson drills the holes with a modern auger. At fish camps across the Arctic, satellite phones and GPS units sit alongside handmade tools that would be recognizable to ancestors from centuries past. It's not a matter of choosing one approach over the other, but of taking the best from both worlds. Commercial fishing operations in northern regions have embraced this hybrid approach. Many employ traditional knowledge keepers to guide their use of modern technology, recognizing that satellites and sonar can't replace generations of accumulated wisdom about fish behavior. Studies have shown that fishing operations that combine traditional ecological knowledge with modern technology consistently outperform those relying solely on technology. What's most remarkable about this evolution isn't the fancy gear. It's the resilience of cultural practices in the face of change. Ice fishing techniques haven't survived because they're quaint or interesting, but because they work. The skills required, patience, observation, understanding animal behavior, remain valuable regardless of what tools you're using. Perhaps most importantly, ice fishing continues to connect people to place. In a world where many have lost connection to the sources of their food, Inuit communities maintain a direct relationship with the land and water that sustains them. You might be able to order sushi on your phone app, but there's something special about catching dinner through a hole you just punched through 5 feet of ice. Modern technology might make holes easier to drill and fish easier to find, but it cannot manufacture the determination required to sit in sub-zero temperatures, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. You can give someone tools, but not grit. In the end, the success of ice fishing still comes down to the qualities that have always mattered in the Arctic: patience, persistence, and profound connection to the environment.